Mohammed in Bournemouth was at the protest outside Mr. Ellwood's home. Thank you very much for coming on the programme, Mohammed. What did you hope to achieve by doing this?
Okay, so the reason we went down to Tobias Ellwood's house is we have reached out to him and various other MPs multiple times to see if that we could get them to call for a ceasefire. And they are refusing to speak to us. I personally have tried. I've spoke to his secretary. I was waiting a call back. This is about 3 months ago. I'm yet to receive a call back. I would disagree with your words to say that it was intimidation. It was a very peaceful protest. And Britain is complicit in the genocide and ethnic cleansing that is going on. Britain is part of the Arms Trade Treaty, which says that if any arms exports go into any country that are going to break international law, that should not happen. When we've got a civilian casualty rate of 92%, this is highly disproportionate. And it was in direct response to the night before the indiscriminate bombing of a refugee camp, which the Israelis have told 1.6 million civilians to go down to Rafah to be safe there. Okay. They were bombing them indiscriminately.
So, Mohammed,
when is that going to stop? When is that going to stop?
That's a very, very good question, but not really one that Tobias Ellwood or any other British MP can actually answer. So hang on a sec, Mr. Mohammed.
We have asked Tobias Ellwood.
Let me ask the question. No. I know what you've asked him. You've told me what you've asked him. Yeah. You've asked him to speak. He hasn't spoken to you. It might be his right. I don't think it is your right, your ability to say that the protest wasn't intimidating. That is very much up to the people to whom you were aiming the protest at, as to whether or not they found it intimidating. And what did you hope was to be achieved if Mr. Ellwood stepped out of his house and said, "Oh my God, you're absolutely right. You have come down to my house and stood outside it for so long. You are right. I'm going to call for a ceasefire." Is that him changing his mind, or is that people being bullied?
I don't think it's him being bullied. I think it's his moral obligation, his minimal moral obligation as a member of Parliament in this constituent to listen to his constituents. And we've been holding multiple
demonstrations. He can listen and disagree with you.
We have been holding multiple demonstrations with a poll with 70% of the British public backing a ceasefire. Now, we've got 13,000 dead children. What number does it have to be to get a ceasefire?
It's a very, very good question.
Is it 30,000? Is it 300,000? Or are we prepared to let the whole civilian population of Gaza die and perish?
But what does Mr. Ellwood have to do with it? Why is he apparently complicit? What do you mean by complicit? In what way is an MP in this country complicit?
Yeah, I will answer that. By him not asking for a ceasefire and backing the genocide by not asking for a ceasefire, him and every other MP that does not is complicit. This British government.
So just pause there, Mohammed, for a second.
If I'm going to use a quotation from Rishi Sunak offering unequivocal support for Israel, that has given the green light for these massacres to happen.
Pause there, Mohammed. You talk about complicity and you talk about the genocide. Do you accept that the ICJ said that there was a plausible argument for genocide, which of course is awful, that there is a plausible argument, but that doesn't mean that they have found that a genocide is definitely happening? Do you agree with that?
Do you suggest that a genocide isn't happening?
I'm not in a position to define what a genocide is. I'll leave that to the international court. So, Mohammed, just come back to my question and answer my question, if you don't mind, sir. Do you believe that a genocide... that the International Criminal Court has said that there is a plausible argument, they haven't said that a genocide is happening. Do you agree?
Okay, let me answer that. So an IDF spokesman said that their tactics are to pressure Hamas by pressuring the civilians. And what does that mean? Since the ICJ ruling, we've had over 1,900 civilians killed. And that's since the ICJ ruling.
You're not answering my question.
If that is not a genocide or ethnic cleansing, can you describe what is, please?
Who put you in charge of deciding whether it was or was not a genocide?
I think it's plain to see that this
not
is
according
a
to the ICJ, it
with
isn't.
The tactic. Well, they said there's plausible, and they are going to now explore that.
Well, if it was as obvious as you are saying, sir, why didn't they just say yes? This is a genocide.
I think this is a genocide. I think this is ethnic cleansing.
You do, but others disagree, don't they?
I think the minority disagree. Yes. I think the minority disagree, and I think the majority of the British public will back a ceasefire. And if you don't turn on the news every night and see the bloodbath that is happening, that this government is allowing, look at the arms imports. Most of the arms are manufactured in the UK. Do the British public know this? Do the British public know this? The RAF are sending drones, reconnaissance drones over Gaza every day, whilst the British public are going through the cost of living. I've just heard on the radio that inflation has stayed where it is, the food price going down. Why isn't that money that has been sent to Israel to murder innocent people being given to the British public so they can live a comfortable
the language
life?
about murdering innocent people is an interesting one. You talk about ceasefires. What do you see as the difference between a ceasefire and a pause?
Well, of course, a total ceasefire will mean that no more bullets are fired. A pause means let's get into position to commit more massacres. How could you not find the difference between that?
So there is. You agree?
We want a full and unconditional ceasefire, and we will put pressure on our MPs and on our government until we get one. And it's not going to stop.
You assume that there is you accept that there is a difference between a ceasefire and a pause. A pause is temporary with the hope of working towards something more formal, and a ceasefire is a formal agreement between both parties involved in this to stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happens then to Hamas? Are Hamas allowed to continue to run Gaza? What happens to the hostages?
Well, Hamas is not in question here, really. I don't believe that
they're
in question
Hamas
here.
are not in question here.
They administer the Gaza Strip.
They carried out a terror atrocity on the 7th of October for which 1,000 people died and more than 130 are still being held hostage. What on earth are you talking about?
Okay, so what about the terrorist attacks that Israel have been committing since?
Well, let's go back to what a ceasefire means, sir, because you are using the word. A ceasefire, Mohammed, you're going to have to let me make the point. You're engaging in massive whataboutery. Focus on the words that you are using and what they mean. Ceasefire means that an agreement is reached between Hamas and Israel to pause the fighting for an extended period, which would be wonderful to see bombs not being dropped, but would mean that Hamas would still be in charge. Is that acceptable to you?
Well, what do you think would be the solution to this? Do you think that Israel should be allowed to commit massacres daily, day upon day, when we have had an ICJ ruling that says that the Britain should not be supplying weapons? And anyway, like I've said before,
the quickest way to stop this,
arms trade treaty.
I think the quickest way to stop this is for Hamas to surrender, hand over the hostages, and stop the need to go after getting them home.
What about the 9,000 hostages that Israel hold?
Well, it depends whether they're hostages or not, sir. Do you know in what circumstances those 9,000 are being held in prisons in Israel?
They are under administrative detention. They do not have any charges placed against them.
Some of them don't. Some of them don't. Some of them do.
9,000 of them are under administrative detention, and they do not even know why they are there. Their families don't know anything about them. So you're talking about hostages on this side. When is Israel going to be held accountable for their terrorist attacks, and when is Israel going to release the hostages they have?
When you say Yemen, make us proud, turn another ship around.
And let's not forget that Hamas are not. They are under an oppressive ruler. They are under. Sorry, I've lost my words here.
That's weird. You never seem to have them, Mohammed. To be honest with you, why are you excusing them? Why are you excusing Hamas?
I'm not excusing them. They're obviously
what are they, Mohammed?
They are living under an oppressive regime.
Are they a terrorist organisation, Mohammed?
They are a terrorist organisation, but they have the right to defend themselves under Amnesty International.
No, that's not true either. They don't have the right to defend themselves under Amnesty International.
Anyone under occupation have the right to resist.
Israel left the Gaza Strip in 2015.
The Gaza Strip has been under siege since 2005, and anybody that has the power to withhold electricity, food, and water is committing international law.
What percentage of the amount of electricity and water is under Israeli control in Gaza?
All of it.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Wrong.
Yes, it is.
It doesn't control all the water and electricity.
And now you're talking about something else. I'm talking to you about why we went to the MP and why we're pressuring MPs into what they should be doing. And they should be calling for a ceasefire unconditionally.
Even if it means
exactly
Hamas being left in charge, it means Hamas being left in charge and
well,
the
that's
hostages
something for the
remain.
international community to sort out afterwards. But in the meantime,
Why should Israel
whilst
agree
Hamas-
to allowing that organisation in
whilst
charge?
Hamas are there, they should not be indiscriminately targeting civilians, and that is exactly what the IDF tactics have said.
Mohammed, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Mohammed in Bournemouth, who was outside Tobias Ellwood's home yesterday. As you heard, those protests are apparently going to continue.